Next up, we have Ed Candioty. Ed has been involved in many areas of the food service industry throughout his 40-year career, including but not limited to the restaurant food and equipment distribution, marketing and advertising, and currently kitchen recycling. He's participated on numerous culinary and industry boards and committees during his professional career, and is currently responsible for the development of national customer relations and service agreements with Baker Commodities. Ed will be presenting his talk on enlightening mid-level facility managers on the importance of proper FOG practices. Please join me in welcoming Ed Candioty.
Thank you. It's been a long night. And do me a favor, if anybody needs to throw anything up here, please throw fruit, because I'm trying to watch my weight, okay? So, thank you, Jen, and good morning to all. As Jen mentioned, I have the privilege of working with chain restaurant clients coast to coast, and I've found it very richly rewarding. Having grown up professionally in the restaurant industry since 1974, to be exact, the industry has been as fluid as it is in concept design, menu and recipe creativity, marketing and customer development. Two things have never changed. One, the need to provide for the customers above all else. And two, the need to manage facilities so that providing for the customer is even possible. One very important element of proper kitchen practices is the ability to remove water and waste from the kitchen safely and to see that it is disposed of in an environmentally safe and proper method. This is not to say, this is not just to keep your restaurant running as efficiently as possible, but to also prevent a city inspector from coming unglued and issuing a nasty fine for creating havoc with the city sewer system. Let's experience the beauty and value of a grease trap, or the interceptor, that mindless wonder that acts as a buffer between you and a $1,000 fine. So, to appreciate how a grease trap works, it helps to understand the process of what goes into and out of the device. A trap has no moving parts. Its sole function is to act as a delay between when water is drained from the kitchen until the time the water meets the city sewer line, and by slightly chilling the hot water from the kitchen, then the grease has a chance to solidify. In the meantime, your warewashing and drain water enters through the inlet and sits in the trap. The fats, the oils, and grease, referred to as fog, this allows these essentials to float to the surface, separating them from the water below. The water below the fog, by its constant moving action, continues through the trap via the exit line to the city sewer, reasonably clean of the fog that was left behind. At set intervals, your trap pumping service will come to empty the trap and remove everything in the above ground or below ground trap, including all of the fog, the water, and preventing the clogging of the city lines as your wastewater exits the trap. With the fog, the full content of the grease trap needs to be removed so that the suspended grease in the water is also hauled away. What dictates the pumping intervals, or the frequency as we call it? Three things: the size, measured in gallons, of the grease trap, the type of food service in your restaurant, and so in other words, if you serve a lot of French fries, tempura, corn dogs, anything fried in your kitchen, the trap will generally be more need of service. Lastly, local municipal code, or the interpretation of that code by your local inspector. Their mandate of frequency trumps all choices and options for service timing. So what's the proper cleaning technique for the trap? Pump the fog. That's the fats, oils, and grease, including all standing water from all chambers. Pump the sediment at the bottom of the trap and scrape all the accessible areas inside the trap, rinse, and pump it again. Skimming or just removing the surface fat is not allowed, or pumping the water, filtering it, and returning it to the trap is also not allowed in most national municipalities, and they can result in fines by that city. Now, here's a secret to saving you hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars when it appears an emergency is required. If your kitchen drains are clogged and not draining, your inlet line into the grease trap is plugged. It's plugged with something. It could be fat buildup, a towel, gloves, starchy items like rice or bread, but it's not the trap. If smelly, thick, dark liquid and water's coming out of the trap covers, your exit line from the trap to the city sewer is blocked with something, usually excess fat and things that have closed up the line. But it's not the trap. So pumping the trap in an emergency generally will not result in anything solving the issue. So, you know, when these calls come through, the first thing everybody says is, could you please pump the trap right away? It's not necessary. This is where you need a hydrojetting service to clean the inlet or exit line to free the junk acting as a blockage to or from the trap. You'll be back in business fast and have saved huge money calling out a trap crew in an emergency that would not have solved the issue. In the majority of cases, when a chef, or kitchen employee, or management calls in a panic, hydrojetting solves the problem. So what about snaking? Okay, it works, but it's a temporary fix, because generally the snake will do nothing more than poke a hole in the fat that's blocking the line, but it's not going to clear it out like hydrojetting will. So you'll be back to the original problem in no time if only you poke a little hole in the fat that's sitting in there. Because grease traps come in so many sizes, from the small 40 to 50 gallon under sink models to serve a single pot sink, to 10,000 gallon monsters that can require multiple trucks and crews to empty completely, your service provider should work to determine the proper pumping frequency. Servicing too often, and you're spending unnecessary money from your budget. But servicing not enough, and you risk the clogs and overflow from the buildup working against your kitchen. So somewhere in between is just right. So, lastly, keep in mind that whatever you put down a sink or a floor drain, or you leave on your dishes before putting into your dishwashing system, it's going to end up in the grease trap. So unfortunately, and not to point fingers, but removal of baskets and filters on the floor sinks gives your night crew unlimited access to putting all the floor trash and every convenient exit that magically allows for the junk to disappear. But the trap pumper sees it and recognizes what's going down there. So what kind of surprises have we experienced? This was taken from just one single trap of a national restaurant chain. One trap service, one restaurant only. Pulled from the grease trap, this location was lucky this time that none of this clogged their line, costing huge money to remove or shutting down the entire restaurant. But these items found their way down the floor sink through the inlet to the grease trap. So what would have been the expense of shutting down a restaurant because of trap overflows and drain stoppages, or an inspector finding more kitchen practices by having all of this going down the drains? Preventing access and allowing the sweeping and hosing the back of the house when cleaning into the floor sinks can help eliminate the huge expense of unnecessary emergency calls, including emergency jetting and camera work to find the hazards. Or worse, the immediate closure of your restaurant until the city gives the all clear because of unsafe kitchen practices. So do the right thing. Be sure your trap is serviced properly, within municipal code, being done responsibly by removing everything inside and cleaned as well as possible, and being done on the right frequency. For years to come, you'll have a great restaurant. The responsibility to manage your trap is shared between everyone who steps into your kitchen and how they see the need to be careful. A trap is not a hassle if you see it as a benefit and help it to run properly, and you're careful in that respect. Thank you.